Peace. What's good, YouTube? It's Kareem Samadi back again with another video. Alright, so today we're going to get into removing toxic people from our lives. It's a form of emotional alchemy, and it's a part of the letting go process, and it's a part of becoming the best version of ourselves, right? So removing those toxic people. We all have those people in our lives that we know at some point this relationship needs to end, this friendship needs to end, this situation, this partnership needs to end. You know, depending on whatever the situation is, right? We've all had our encounters with toxic people. I myself have had my own encounters with toxic people. And understanding this is really key, honestly. It's very important to know on a spiritual journey when it's time to let go of people, especially if they are not serving you in becoming the best version of yourself. They're not serving you on your spiritual path anymore, right? See, what we have to understand is that the first thing is that when it comes to our bonds with people, not all of these bonds are meant to last, especially in this lifetime, right? We go through multiple different lifetimes, and a lot of times, you know, a lot of people are lessons for us, for our soul refinement, for our soul's journey. So we need to recognize some of these things, and sometimes we'll get harder lessons, you know, for ourselves in the form of toxic people, you know, especially if you see things and perceive things this way, right? Even if you believe in God, right? God will place people in your life that are seemingly difficult to, you know, continue with, you know, people who are lessons for you, you know, in order to put you back on the path that you're supposed to be on. So what is toxicity, right? Toxicity has a large range of definitions, but it's simply, the best way that I can put it is, it's simply people are not benefiting you, but they're taking more from you than you are taking from them. So you're giving too much of yourself, and this person is taking too much from you and giving you less in return. That's one way we can describe it. You know, it could also be people who are not really conducive to your purpose. It could be places that aren't conducive to your purpose, places that aren't conducive to who you are, things that aren't in alignment with who you are. We can also be toxic to ourselves, right? Any kind of abuse, any kind of narcissistic relationship, any kind of relationship that just has, you know, run its course, right, and is beyond saving, and, you know, there's a lot of resentment, and, you know, a lot of things, sometimes, you know, these things can end up becoming toxic. They can end up becoming poisonous, especially if there's attachment involved. Attachment to anything is poison, right? And that's what keeps our souls from being able to move forward, especially in our journey, right? We have to understand at this particular time, you know, especially with the transformation of the universes in our souls, right? We have to understand, like, when it comes to this earth plane, we are supposed to be detaching from things in this earth plane, and any attachment will hold us back. You know, it'll bring us back into, you know, deeper cycles, descension cycles that we are supposed to be moving forward from. So we need to be cognizant of these things. All right. So how does this affect us spiritually, right? On the giving end, toxicity can affect you spiritually simply because of the fact that you are being a vampire to someone by being toxic to their lives, by draining them of their energy, right? If you ever read that book, Psychic Vampires, it talks about this, right? It talks about, you know, doing narcissistic things, doing things to others in order to get them to manipulate them in your favor, to control them in your favor, you know, to keep people where you want them to be, using people, abusing people. In general, right? Vampirism, psychic vampirism has its roots in so many different pathways, right? That it can really affect people in many different ways. And so the most common thing I want to really touch on is it's going to be, you know, just a toxic relationship, you know, simply because of the fact that, you know, we're talking about a broad scope of things, right? And so the first step to removing toxic people from your life is to remove the log from your own eye. Biblical reference right there. Remove the log from your own eye instead of worrying about what's in someone else's eye, right? What other people's problems are, you know, because a lot of times what we'll do is we'll blame others. We'll talk so much about what they're doing. We'll talk so much about what they've done to us. We'll talk so much about how they're controlling us, how things aren't in our favor. But we won't assess ourselves, and we won't take responsibility for being in this situation, for being where we are in life, right? You know, when it comes to a toxic relationship, especially with a lover or a friend, right, you have to take responsibility for even being in that situation, for even being with that person, for allowing that person into your life. And if, let's say you're in a toxic relationship, a long-term relationship, you have to take responsibility for the fact that you may have noticed these signs and just disregard your intuition that this person was not going to be for you, right? We have to understand, right? Because the biggest thing we can do, or that we do on average, is to blame other people for everything. It makes us feel small. It makes us, it pleases the ego to blame, because it takes the accountability of self away. It takes the mindfulness away, and thus it'll take you away from your intuition and being in the moment and really understanding the larger lesson at picture, or in the picture, right? By taking responsibility, we can understand our karma with this person, right? And karma meaning lesson, not meaning you get, what you put out, or, good things and bad things. No, that's not what karma is. In my perspective, in my experience, right? Karma is much larger than just, this religious concept that we've created. Karma is about lessons. Karma is about understanding. Karma is about, enlightening yourself and letting go, and understanding how to move forward in your soul journey, and understanding the lessons and the hardships that come with life on earth and life after, right? So you have to understand your karma with this person and facilitate the healing and letting go without blaming and complaining. Blaming and complaining are large blockages to our spiritual power, because it essentially places that person as the object of control in your life. The same way how, if you choose to react a certain way to somebody doing something to you, they are controlling your emotions. You're not controlling your emotions, right? It's like drinking poison and expecting somebody else to feel it, so we have to understand exactly our perspective, right? And, blaming and complaining won't take us to an understanding. Blaming and complaining will only take us, further in circles, and it won't bring us to any solution. So that's why I say remove the log from your own eye and assess yourself. Take responsibility for the things that you did in the relationship, right? Especially if it's abusive, mentally, physically, emotionally. Take responsibility, right? You have a lot of people, they stay in situations longer than they should, because they might be scared. Might be scared because they don't trust themselves enough to move forward. They don't, they attribute so much power to the other person or to the other party that they forget that they have free will, free agency. And that can trap you in a slave mindset, right? Everyone in our lives is also a mirror for ourselves in one way or the other. So whatever's going on with another person, we also have to recognize that we have certain attributes. I'm not saying you are the same person as them, but you might have attributes that this person possesses, or something that attracts this type of person to you, this type of place to you, something that attracts this type of group of people to you, whatever the case may be. Because everybody in our lives is a mirror. We can't say that the mind is all and all is a mind, without taking accountability for what's going on outside of us. We can't say as above, so below, as within, so without, but not take responsibility for what we're emulating. That's, bring like people into our vibration, right? So we have to understand the type of magnetism that we're giving off through our actions, through what we show others, through what we do. Right? We have to understand what we're doing on a daily basis, because that is very key to removing the toxic people from your life, to removing people from your life that don't serve you. So take that log out of your own eye and really assess and take responsibility for where you're at. You want to forgive yourself too for being in the situation, however long it may have been, tolerating somebody that isn't meant for you, tolerating somebody mistreating you, tolerating somebody, not serving you, not having your best intentions, right? Whatever the case may be, you have to forgive yourself for being in that situation, for being scared to move on, for not letting yourself see the opportunities, for not trusting yourself. Forgive yourself for all the mistakes that you made, right? Because when it's over, you might have a lot of built up guilt, a lot of built up resentment towards yourself for waiting so long, right? Especially things don't end in your favor, right? You want to recognize where you begin to compromise and lose yourself and forgive yourself. A lot of times we will lose ourselves in other people, because we're trying to find love in other people rather than generating it within, defining our own self-worth, defining our own boundaries, and before we get in with another person. And this is why other people can come in and step all over us, because we're willing to take anything just to feel that high, to feel that rush of affection, to feel that, a lot of people will compromise this. They'll compromise themselves because they just want that feeling again. A lot of men will compromise themselves just to have that lust satisfied, to have that sex satisfied. Men and women will compromise just to have that sex satisfied, right? So we have to really understand what we're doing. We have to understand our mindset. We have to understand the things that we have in our minds going in to something, especially a romantic relationship, right? Because you still play a role. Everybody is a mirror to you, so you still play a role, right? You know, if you're a person and you don't like people who are genuinely nice to you, and you want to chase after thugs, you want to chase after bad boys, right? You have to understand that when you get people that don't care about you and people that don't want to stay in your life long term, you have to understand that that's the energy that you're giving out, right? So, you know, for anybody who is subscribed to the whole red pill, you know, like, yes, it's true in some ways, right? We have to take things for what they're worth. It's true, you know, but we also have to understand the inverse is also true too. You know, you have to understand you want to surround yourself with people that have your best interest in mind. And so any resentment that you also have with other people is also a part of you resenting yourself for being in that situation. You know, you don't hate what somebody else has done to you. You hate yourself for putting up with it, right? Hate doesn't exist, you know, not in a sense of you projecting that onto other people. Hatred doesn't exist. You hate the situations happening because you feel like you don't have the control over it, right? And that's real talk. Shout out to Dr. BOA, because I remember Dr. BOA was talking about that in one of his videos. I think it was on his King Ray Ray channel, right? Dr. BOA is really good, so go check him out if you can, right? Step 2 of letting go, removing toxic people from your life. You know, you want to outline your feelings and your truth and what's going on between you and this person, rather than escaping from it, rather than suppressing it so much. You want to outline your feelings. And you don't necessarily have to do this between you and the person, right? You want to do this internally. You want to go within. You want to meditate and really open up to yourself and be honest about what's going on. Be honest about how you feel about this person, how you feel about this relationship in a truthful fashion. Stop lying to yourself. Stop gaslighting yourself into staying into something that you know doesn't serve you. You know, especially if you feel like you can't do any better than this person. You feel like you can't move forward without this person. You feel like this person is the end all be all, right? Because that's what you'll begin to create for yourself. Don't make excuses. And if you can, because everybody can, get a third opinion on what's going on with you and this person in this situation, or because this third opinion will be objective and it'll be an unbiased opinion, right? Get a third opinion. And just have an objective look at it, because when you have your blinders on, especially the love blinders, right? When you have your blinders on, or you might have your stubbornness blinders, you might have your mindset blinders on if they're not a lover and they're a friend, right? You might have your vibration blinders on because you might be doing the same things and you might just be thinking that somebody else is the problem when you have certain issues with you that you need to get over too. So outline your feelings and be truthful with yourself. What's going on with you? And what's going on with that person? Do you mirror some of the qualities that this person is giving off to you? Right? If so, make note of that. Be honest with yourself, and really just get a big image in your mind of everything, all encompassing what's going on, right? And ask yourself, is this serving you? Is this what the best version of yourself wants in their life? If you can envision the best version of yourself, do you envision this situation occurring for the best version of yourself on a day-to-day basis? Because if the answer is no, let them go, right? These things are very, very simple, right? And you want to ask yourself if this person is uplifting you and supporting you on being your best version, because a lot of us will be with people that don't uplift and support us, but we'll be with them for an attachment or a certain need, right? Just because somebody's fulfilling one part doesn't mean that they're fulfilling all parts, and they're not reciprocating, right? And you also want to make sure you're fulfilled within. You want to make sure you take care of yourself emotionally and spiritually within. If you're not doing that, no one else is going to be able to add to that. Where's your self-worth at? Why, especially when you're dealing with people who don't serve you, where's your self-worth at? Ask yourself these questions, especially if you find yourself being used a lot, being abused a lot, and would the best version of you really be around this person? Would the best you tolerate mistreatment and abuse, manipulation, gaslighting, whatever it may be, would the best you tolerate this situation? Ask yourself this. Are you appreciated? Are you heard? Are you respected in this exchange? Have you communicated everything on your end properly, right? Not in a sense of blaming, but have you communicated what's going on? Have you done all that you can? Have you actually spoken up for yourself? And not in an argumentative way, but have you actually spoken up for yourself? Because a lot of us won't realize, have you even had the dialogue, the inner dialogue with yourself too? Because honestly, sometimes you don't have to explain everything to another person, but you do have to explain and be honest with yourself. Because that's when the honesty will line up. Once you're honest with yourself, the honesty will line up in your actions. It'll become your vibration, right? Honest with yourself, and you walk and talk honest, being authentic to yourself, closing the gap between who you are, and you generate that self-love, you will have that going into your interactions with people, right? So be this person, be that best you, close that gap, be honest with yourself in all aspects of your life, right? And communicate as well. Step 3, right? We're going to get into a forgiveness ritual, right? So on the receiving side, you want to meditate on what you learned about yourself and your spirit in the situation. This is very key because when it comes to karma and karmic relationships, karmic friendships, things that can end up being very passionate, very fiery in the beginning and have a very tumultuous end, we have to understand that it's all a lesson. It always has to end in forgiveness in some fashion. So on the receiving side, meditate on what you learned about yourself in this situation, dealing with this toxic person, dealing with the toxic environment. What have you learned? What has your spirit gained in the situation? What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about your purpose? What did you learn? How did you grow spiritually out of the situation, right? Pay attention to this because this is key. This is where the emotional alchemy is really being done. This is where the transformation is being done. And you have to always constantly ask yourself when you deal with people, when you deal with toxic environments, when you deal with toxic relationships, when you deal with toxic friendships, ask yourself these things. We all have our issues too. So when we begin by letting go, we can apply what we learned in order to grow. This is the key to learning. This is the key to growing from forgiveness. You see it all as a lesson. This removes a lot of the blame. It removes a lot of the responsibility, or not responsibility. It removes a lot of the blame. It removes a lot of complaining. It removes a lot of excuses and a lot of resentment built up. Because when you see everything as a lesson, everything starts to change in your life. Rather than seeing life as something that's happening to you, victimizing yourself, if you see it as a lesson, you will transform rapidly. When I started seeing everything in my life as a lesson, I transformed rapidly. I grew up, victimizing myself, especially with the color of my skin, right? I grew up thinking in a victim mindset because of the mind control on brown skinned people in America, right? There's a lot of mind control around that. And so a lot of it is centered around you being a victim. And on top of that, you're taught to hate yourself as well. So, you have to understand these things when it comes to yourself, right? Understand. And when you see these things as a lesson, you start to see things in a spiritual fashion. That's when you can really see, that's when you can really grow. I didn't start to grow until I started to understand the spirituality of all these things, because a lot of it just kept building up. And I started to encounter things, in a lot of places that I went. And it wasn't just this too, I had a case in romantic relationships where I always victimized myself too. Now, at first, I was dealing with people that were all over the place. I've been with people that just don't love themselves. I've been with people that are completely emotionally unavailable. I've been with narcissistic people. I've been with liars. I've been with cheaters. I've been with so many different kinds of women, and I had to really understand what, when I really took a look back, right? Because sometimes things were my fault and other times things weren't. And sometimes there was just more to it than just it being someone's fault. When you look at things spiritually, you grow past seeing people's faults, and so I grew past that and I saw the lesson. You have to look at people as every time you look at another person, just see a baby. Picture them as a baby. Imagine them as a baby, and that'll also take a lot of the resentment off of you. You're like, look at them as a child and When you do, you can start to understand them from a different perspective. You can, you can start to see them, see the wounded person within. We're all wounded. That's why we're all here. We're all healing from something. We all have an issue to deal with. That's why we're in the school of earth, because we have an issue to deal with that our soul needs to refine. I have a problem. That's why I'm here. Not only that, but I also have a purpose that will aid in that problem. And so do you. So we have to all understand where we're all coming from on a cosmic level. This is what happens when you turn within and you start to forgive, right? This is, first you want to forgive yourself, like I said. And then when you do forgive yourself, you do understand a lesson. Then you can worry about forgiving others, So this is a part of the forgiveness ritual, and this is how we can let go. And in order to grow physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, right? This is the case in physical, mental, emotionally, and spiritually abusive cases, right? See it as a lesson and then understand that lesson. And that way, letting go becomes easier. Understanding becomes easier. Once you have understanding, there is no more resentment. There is no more emotional trauma. There's nothing to move forward from when it comes to understanding. The only thing that you can do after you understand is heal and transform. So come to an understanding within first. If you decide to come to an understanding with the person, then go ahead. That's on you. But you don't necessarily have to unless you tell yourself you have to. So this is all about forgiveness on one end. But even when you do this energetically, the other person will understand it. On a cosmic level, spiritually, they will understand it. So spiritually, even when you do this stuff spiritually, this echoes into the spirit world. So your egos don't have to come together, but your spirits already understand quantumly. So step 4 on the is the second part of the forgiveness ritual, and this is the giving side. Meditate on what you might have learned or what you might have taught this person. Actually, learning was the receiving side, but what you might have taught the other person and what they might have taught you is the giving side. So what has this person taught you, or what have you taught this person? What do you feel that you've taught this person? And you also have to understand that you can't heal everybody. And a lot of us will get caught up in this, especially for empaths, right? Empaths are natural healers. And not only that, but the more melanin that you have, the more energy and light that you have within your heart chakra. And so ideally you want to heal everything because it's in your position to heal. It's in your DNA to want to heal, to want to forgive, right? And you have to understand that you can't always heal everyone. You can't always fix everyone, right? They have to be open to it. They have to be open to receiving no matter what you might have taught them. So reflect on what you taught them, but also if you recognize that this person is beyond your teaching, beyond your healing, you also have to understand that it's okay to let that go. And it's okay to say bye to people that don't serve you, right? We have to understand, you don't have to keep people around so much. You don't have to attach so hard. The only thing that you should attach to is what's within and detach from what's going on in this matrix, right? That's why I say the law of detachment is so key. Attachment will destroy you and it'll keep you in a cycle of death and rebirth until you understand that you have to go within, right? Attachment will not work, right? We've dealt with attachment already. It's time to move forward. So you also don't want to gaslight yourself into staying in situations that hold you back, because a lot of us will make reasons, will make excuses, and we'll also say that our intuition is not good enough. So that's what's going to shut down the intuition. That's when it's going to shut down the melanin, and it's going to shut down our spiritual insight, right? So listen to yourself, listen to your dreams, because your dreams also give you the answers to these situations as well. They tell you how to navigate. They tell you what's coming in the future. Honestly, after I started writing down my dreams, I was able to see things in the future months in advance. I was able to see who was right for my life months in advance. And surely enough, I did an experiment. I kept somebody around. Things started happening and I recognized, hey, shouldn't have ignored that dream. I stayed in places I wasn't supposed to stay in. Dreams told me, get out of there. Stayed a little bit too long, ended up being forced, right? So you have to understand, follow your intuition at all times. Follow your intuition, connect with yourself. You can only do that, through finding that medium that really gets you in that moment, whether it's meditation, guided meditation, whatever it is. Get there, connect with yourself. And step 5, forgive them for yourself first. Don't worry about forgiving them personally, face to face, but forgive them for yourself, especially if it was like a really bad situation, a really bad environment, a really bad relationship. Forgive them for yourself instead of holding it. You don't want to hold grudges, because grudges are another form of attachment. You're attaching to that old idea. You don't want to change your entire personality based off of somebody else's behavior and carry that with you. That's another form of grudge, right? You don't want to hold on to that and then go on saying, all men aren't shit, all women aren't shit, all of this race isn't shit, all of that race isn't shit. You don't want to hold on to that. Let go of these grudges. Let go of these labels, right? And really just forgive yourself, and then forgive them for yourself. You don't have to condone what other people did, right? We have to get out of this condoning other people's actions, right? Hold people accountable and hold yourself accountable, right? But you can only truly hold other people accountable if you're holding yourself accountable at all times. Otherwise, you could just be projecting on others and not know it, because you're not self-aware. So forgive them for yourself, and make sure, if you do decide to forgive them personally, make sure that they actually apologize to you, or that they request your forgiveness and take responsibility on their end, and make sure it's not half-ass, because you have to understand, if people are really meant to be in your life, they'll be there. Trust me, they'll come back. Something will happen that will bring them to you. So there's no need to attach to anything. Anything that's meant to happen will happen, right? And anything that's meant to disappear from your life, it will fade away the more that you focus on yourself. But don't attach so much into them, right? Who's the main character here? You or them, right? You're the main character of your life. This is your story. You're writing a story. So you have to be aware of what you're writing at all times. So, and the last step is, after you forgive them for yourself, or after they take responsibility, right? Let go. And in general, you want to let go throughout this entire process, but don't partially let go. Especially if you're thinking about moving forward, don't partially let go. Don't hold on just a little bit. Don't leave any room for convincing. Let go all the way. Don't attach anymore. Detach all the way from this person, from this place. Detach all the way. Let go all the way of anything that does not serve you. And open up to yourself. Open your heart to yourself. And focus on your healing and your path, right? If this person was in your way in any way, shape, or form, right? And they didn't want to see you succeed. They, in some way, shape, or form, they didn't want to see you doing better, right? Or they just were holding you back. They were hurting you, whatever the case may be. This person was toxic to you. This place was toxic to you. And it seemed like it was just draining your energy, right? It seemed like this person was manipulating you, right? You have to understand, you have to let it all go, right? Once you let the person go, you also have to let the situation go. Because once you come to an understanding of a lesson here, then you'll be able to let go. And you want to just be able to move forward and just be you, follow your path and your purpose, right? And without holding on so much to experience, right? That experience, it happened then, but you are always constantly moving forward. So you don't want to be moving forward looking in the rearview mirror, because you won't be going anywhere other than backwards, and you'll have another accident leaving you still and possibly dead. So that's how you remove toxic people from your life. That's part of the letting go process, part of the emotional alchemy process and letting go, and the forgiveness rituals that we can do in order to really energetically move on, to transform and come to an understanding and how we can learn and grow from these things. I hope this video inspired you guys. I hope you learned something, and I hope it resonated. I wish you all luck in your journey, and peace.